Lawyers of Reddit, what was your hold it moment where you knew you would win? Not a lawyer. But I'm currently in a custody battle. Mother is saying I can't be trusted because I've been refusing to take our child to the therapist. The therapist testified I couldn't bring our child in because therapy must have both parents' consent. And mother has retracted consent. Parent termination case I was prosecuting. Dad went on how he has changed his life around and worked the AA program. Asked him what step he was on. And he proudly proclaimed 3. Asked him what step 3 is. He had no idea. Then asked him step 2 was. Again. No idea. Parental rights terminated. My client was riding his motorcycle on a relatively calm street when this guy exited his garage without looking and run over him. In deposition, the guy brought a witness that was with him on the passenger seat. The whole time, the witness maintained that my client was driving too fast and that there was no time to brake the car. I asked him the same question a few times in different ways, making him tell the story again. In the fourth telling, he, already a bit frustrated, let it slip. Look, I've already told you. We were exiting the garage and, as soon as I lifted up from getting my cell phone on the car's carpet. Wait, so you didn't even see the crash? There was no coming back from that. When I practiced insurance defense, was handed a file to take over of a slip and fall. Guy tripped on a hose, tore his ACL. The partner had taken the guy's depot already, so I read the transcript. I'm a Michigan football fan. Watched every game for 20 years. This guy testified he was the starting safety for a certain rival for certain years. Also that he graduated with a double major that doesn't exist at that school. I immediately knew this was false. Partner didn't understand. Dug deeper. Lied about so much stuff unrelated to the fall for no reason. Eventually found high school records from football injuries of head trauma, knee injuries, and a slip and fall injury a few months after ours. He also testified he rehabbed an ACL surgery after 1 month. Motion for fraud on the court filed. Immediately settled. It was my 3rd month of practice. I was in family law at the time, representing mom in a petition for a restraining order against boyfriend dad. At issue in the broader case was child visitation, custody, support, etc. But today's hearing was just on the RO. We had pretty good facts, but it was mostly based on testimony of the parties. My client was way more reputable as a witness, so I was feeling confident. 10 minutes before the hearing, my client shows up. I give her a last-minute prep on what to expect, and then she says, I'm glad I'm going through with this. I can't deal with it anymore and he's just getting worse. To top it off, he left me a drunken, ranting voicemail on Saturday. You have your phone with you? Yes. We play the voicemail and it's a full 2 minutes of ex-boyfriend screaming shit like, I should have fucking killed you when we were together. You were always such a bitch. I hope you burned to death in a fire. I didn't have time to ask her why the fuck she hadn't said anything to me about the voicemail before the bailiff called our case. We sit. The judge asks if either side has additional evidence. And I ask for permission to play the voicemail. Ex-boyfriend, who didn't have an attorney, didn't object, so I played the whole nasty 2-minute rant in open court. Judge goes, we're going to take a brief recess before I issue my ruling. If the parties want to meet and confer in the hall, they are welcome to. Boyfriend knew he was fucked. We settled the whole damn case then and there. My client got her wish list in terms of custody, supervised visitation, child support, plus the restraining order. To boot. I worked on a case involving defective processors. In discovery, we got emails from the defendant's engineers that had worked on the processors. They were in an Asian country, but the emails were in English because they were going to US executives. One of the more senior engineers basically laid out the exact defect we were suing over, explaining what the problem was and why it was their fault, and finishing with, this is big problem. We ship crap to customer. Needless to say, we hit them over the head with that in mediation. And they settled shortly after. My mom hit a guy on a bike with her car in a parking lot. She claimed he hit her. She also wanted to counter-sue the cyclist for scaring her. In her deposition, she started every sentence with, when I hit him. When I compared the scanned copy of the deed provided by the other side's lawyers to the original my client eventually got around to providing. The scanned copy provided by the other side had a witness signature. The original did not. Obligatory. Not mine but my mom's story. She was fighting for custody on behalf of the father, trying to prove that the kids were living in subpar conditions with their drug addict mother in spite of the ample child support provided. It was a tough case because courts are so hesitant to pull kids away from their moms. Then the mom burst out that she had been feeding the kids cat food as proof that she wouldn't let them starve. Needless to say, the judge didn't take that as a good reason for the kids to stay with their mom. My client was accused of brutally murdering a dog. Cop testified that there was no testing of the blood, no body ever found, and admitted it could have, in fact, run away. The eyewitness said she could see the killing down the hallway from the dining room. Cop testified there was no hallway and the dining room was on a different level of the house than the killing supposedly took place. Then the person who was leading the lynch mob against my client around town for the last year testified that she had been in the apartment between the two visits by the cop to evaluate the scene. No body. A compromised crime scene. Witness who couldn't see anything. An admission that there was no proof the dog was dead. Closing argument lasted 3 seconds. Your Honor, I'm asking for an acquittal. Edit. My first award. Thanks. For those who asked, this was in Canada and received a fair bit of media attention prior to trial. I can't believe I'm about to use the not a lawyer but loan but here goes. Lol. Tried to sell my home myself and the buyers wanted a term period for land contract before getting their own mortgage. I agreed to 1 year. Had a simple contract drawn up and after we both signed it everything seemed fine. Within 30 days the present me with their own legally drawn up land contract that was pages long to protect their investment. About page 3 it very clearly stated that if for any reason the home burns down, purchaser will receive all insurance proceeds. First, I still had a mortgage and the proceeds would legally go to pay that off. Second, that's a pretty targeted thing to say. Not lawyers' terms of the house being destroyed. And it's surrounded by woods and waterways. Just if it burnt down. Page 4 stated that this would remain a land contract until my mortgage was paid in full. So they'd never buy outright. I returned it to them with a letter stating those two things were never happening and I wasn't signing. They stopped paying so I began eviction. 6 months later the lawyer I hired was an idiot and I'm sitting down with their lawyer myself. He brings out the contract they'd tried giving me and began talking about their ironclad case due to the agreement. I asked him to show me my signature. The look on his face when he realized it wasn't there. After we talked it turned out he knew them and wrote the contract without the burn the house down stipulation. Seems they added it. And under the belief it was a long-term land contract. Not only did I win, I'm pretty sure they lost a lawyer friend. At a restraining order trial it was essentially my client's word versus his. Regarding a sexual assault, he did a good job dressing up and acting very appropriate during most of his testimony. But then he was asked a series of open-ended questions and he said something to the effect that she kept coming up on me with that fucking pussy. Allegedly during a lecture. And as soon as he said it a look came on his face and the judge's face and everyone knew the ruse of respectable young gentlemen had failed. I won. I trapped a defendant pretty badly one time. He testified in a depot he had a green arrow for his left turn and that my client ran the red. Unfortunately for him, the additional turn lane arrow was installed 2 months after the wreck. Case settled for policy limits a week later. Not a lawyer. Years ago I had to do something at a strip mall in a bad part of town. Took me about 20 minutes and then I found that my car had been towed. Ubered to the tow yard. Giant sign says, cash only. Had to call another Uber. Drive to the ATM and back. And pay them $300 some bucks. Got a shitty handwritten receipt that, believe it or not, was itemized. Went home. Googled. Found that they violated the law in 3 separate ways. Towed illegally, illegally refused to accept credit cards, and had multiple charges that the law called unreasonable. Like dolly fees and unload fees. Took them to small claims court. The judge began by asking the tow yard owner about his relationship with the property owner and how the decision was made to tow my car. Oh. The slimy tow truck dude answered. My cousin works there. If he says tow, I tow. It's 100% legal. The judge's eyebrows begin to rise. But the dude continued. But what I detest the most, Your Honor, is this asshole claiming I don't take credit cards. I'm a businessman. I take credit cards all the time. He's a lowlife that does not have any credit cards. That's why he wanted to pay cash. I was having a hold it overload. And the judge saw me smiling and hopping in my seat and patting my manila folder of receipts. Do you actually not have any credit or debit cards? The judge asked me. I pulled out my wallet and showed him. And then I pulled out a time-stamped photo of the cash only sign I took the day of. And another one I took the morning of the hearing. The guy mumbled something like, "Okay, you got me there." And then had nothing but, "Huh. I didn't know that." When the judge asked him about the legality of each unreasonable itemized charge. Anyway, each violation pays double the total tow charge. And since there were 3, that's how I made $1,800 on a $300 investment. When I found a video on Facebook of the plaintiff squatting 300 pounds the month before his deposition. That was a good one. Oh, he was saying he couldn't work and had back injuries after a minor car accident. Edit. Just as a follow-up. I sent the video to his attorney afterward the deposition and the case immediately went away. He also adamantly denied being able to work out or doing any lifting during his deposition. It was a big lie. Also, I agree that this really sucks for the people with legitimate injuries, who people quickly want to just label litigious.